Forbes. The front quadrant is getting very active now. The right front quadrant of Hermine, that would be this area here, with Hermine heading toward the Florida Panhandle. One tornado warning close to in the Florida Panhandle area there, Taylor County. A couple of others over in the mainland, the peninsula that is up, one of which is close to the Leesburg area, the other close to Winter Garden. Lake County, you're under tornado warning as this storm moving north at about 60 miles per hour. Very close to Leesburg right now, heading up then toward Lady Lake and the Starks Ferry area with a possible tornado. This is Doppler indicated. Then a little bit farther to the south and east of that, north and west of Kissimmee, Lake and Orange counties. With a storm that could go a little bit west of the Orlando area. That will be coming up toward the Zellwood and the Monteverdi area, and maybe even a little bit off to the east of that toward the Orange City area, as well as the Winter Garden area. Then Taylor County, another storm that is coming in around the Deckle Beach area, heading up toward the Perry area. This one may get a little bit farther inland than the last one, and there are additional storms south of Scanlon and over toward the Port Leon area also that could get some rotation and move onshore. So this is an area, this Florida Panhandle, Northeast Florida, that I've given a tornado condition index of 7 for the overnight hours. So be on the lookout for possible tornadoes. Alex?
All right, thanks so much, Dr. Forbes. You know, Hurricane Hermine closing in on Florida tonight, but it's already spawned watches and warnings across the southeast coast as well as the Atlantic coast. And this includes Georgia, where Governor Nathan Deal has declared a state of emergency for 56 counties across a good swath of the state, most of the southeastern sections. One of those areas on alert, Valdosta, Georgia. We're joined now by their mayor, John Gale. Mayor Gale, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You know, we want to start with the overall conditions going into Friday. We know schools in Valdosta are closed tomorrow, but what other big problems, or what are the big problems that your city is preparing for?
Well, of course, we've prepared for the worst, but right now we have just a slight rain, no wind, much going on. We're prepared for the flooding and that kind of thing, but so far things have been rather slow right now.
Mayor, we know that Valdosta doesn't necessarily get a hurricane or a tropical storm every day. What's the message you're trying to get to your citizens right now, but what the dangers may be overnight tonight and through tomorrow?
Of course, we're lucky that we normally don't get a lot of hurricanes. They tend to turn away from us. So we're warning the citizens of high winds, trees down, being careful about the roadways, flooding in the low-lying areas, and so far, though, we're pretty safe.
And what about a resource for folks in Valdosta to contact officials or vice versa, you guys to get the message out to citizens? Is there a phone number, a website that people should have in mind to get updates as this storm rolls through? Sure.
Of course, our city phone numbers are 229-242-2600. We have areas open tonight if anyone needs it. Our Mathis Auditorium is open to the public in case they need to be there to get away from the weather. We have our crews on alert. We have all of our city crews ready with chainsaws, everything that they need to get trees off the highways or anything like that. So we're prepared for the worst.
That is Valdosta Mayor John Gale joining us this evening live. Mayor, thank you so much for your time. Talking about an inland city that could have significant impacts from Hurricane Hermine overnight tonight and then through Friday as well. Be prepared, for what the conditions could bring for you. One thing that's going to happen for a lot of people is we're likely to lose power, and that's where a device like this could come in so handy for you. This is an emergency weather radio, flashlight, a battery charger. This is, a $25 to $50 product that you can pick up at a lot of hardware stores. You can get these online, but you can get great stuff like a flashlight out of this, even a high beam. This is even a flash, an SOS for you if you happen to be in trouble. You get a solar panel on there. If you don't have sun, which a lot of times we don't during a tropical system, hand crank on it. You can generate your own power, okay? So the other great thing about this is a lot of us are going to use our cell phones for a way to keep updated. This actually has a little charge port on it. It's got a built-in battery. You can charge your cell phone because we can drain our batteries really quickly in our smartphones. But in addition to that, you know, right in the front here, you can listen to No Weather Radio. Going to give you constant weather updates through this device. Listen to this. This is the local office here that serves Savannah. Life-threatening rip currents are talking about. You can also listen to AM radio. You can listen to FM radio. They can give you a lot more updates when it comes to stuff like evacuations, when it comes to shelters, those type of things that are in place, whereas the Weather Service will give you a lot of weather updates. A great device that can really do you big favors when you've got something like a Hurricane Hermine coming. So keep this in mind. Flashlights, at the very least, have that ready to go, because we think, Alex, that a lot of people are going to lose power. So many trees across the South. We were talking a lot about Tallahassee. It's Tree City, USA, and above ground power lines, not a good combination with a landfalling hurricane.
Absolutely. And what about the scene there in Savannah? I would imagine there are a lot of people in town. I know there's a craft beer festival this weekend, so you've got outsiders in town, you've got the residents. When people see you, have they been concerned, or do they already know? Have they been preparing?
Well, a little both. You know, what's interesting about this evening is right here along the river, I mean, it's been business as usual. The weather is beautiful today. A lot of the restaurants and bars are open here. A lot of the shops are open. A lot of people are really concerned about what happens tomorrow. That's really the height of it for a place like Savannah. And so you don't really have to worry about it too much tonight. There are actually no evacuations in Chatham County right now. There are some areas they watch for some low-lying flooding, but definitely going to watch for the heavy rain that comes here, going to watch for the possibility of tornadoes here. And gusty winds are really peak in the afternoon, say around 65 miles per hour, mid-day. I don't know if you can see it behind me or not. There's the Talmadge Bridge is behind us there. That sits 185 feet off the water. They'll close that bridge for 50-mile-per-hour gusts over a 15-minute time period, so travel could be impacted here. And as you've been alluding to, Alex, Governor Deal has declared a state of emergency in more than 50 counties in Georgia, so definitely taking this very, very seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, when we talk about life and property being the main concerns, I know, a lot of people, just based on our social media, are concerned. It's opening weekend for football, and wondering if some of these locations, for one, Valdosta State has a football game at 7 o'clock on Saturday, and if these areas are to see flooding, would that impact, of course, the big moneymaker that is the start of college football?
Yeah, I think you really have to weigh what the pros and cons are of having something like a sporting event this weekend, especially if you've got an event that you think is really going to be impacted. You know, Valdosta may be right at the epicenter of the center of Hermine, so what about the fans that are going there? Travel for them. What about the conditions there? Can you house them safely in the stadium, you know, if you have severe weather? What about the player safety? You know, a lot of injuries can happen when you have a very wet field. So sometimes you have to weigh the pros and the cons and say, is there really a benefit to us playing this game for the safety of everyone? Would we be better off putting this game off or just suspending it to another time? You know, that's a tough decision to make. I wouldn't want to be the person making that call, because a lot of money is at stake, no question about that. But if it were me, safety first.
Oh, absolutely. And I can't remember the name exactly, but there is a music festival right along the Gulf Coast that they've called it off for the weekend, even though the weather will improve. They can to safely prepare for it.
That's smart. You have to. So many people are open and exposed. You don't want to take that risk.
Absolutely. And what about schools? I know you said the barge traffic is trying to move out. Have you heard anything about schools closing just to keep kids off the roads or workplaces?
Yeah, absolutely. Chatham County schools will be closed tomorrow. That's here in Savannah. Only essential employees needed tomorrow for public offices tomorrow. So if you're a non-essential employee, you can stay home tomorrow. That's okay. They'll have emergency services out. The Red Cross is in town. Salvation Army is in town. EOC opens up in the morning. So they're ready to go. You know, it's one of those deals. I know it's cliche to say, but they're preparing for the worst, hoping for the best, and then hoping that there will be indeed, some weakening once this makes landfall, which we are anticipating. But the biggest threats here again, flooding, some gusting winds that could knock out some power, and always keep in mind we could have a tornado risk as well. So a few things to watch here, but for now, tonight, business as usual.
Yeah. Well, at least you gave them some good tips on things that they can get to prepare in the meantime. Mike Bettis, thank you so much from Savannah, Georgia. I want to take you to some new video that we have been getting in from Alligator Point, Florida. Look at this. The road actually eroding away. You can see chunks of the road as that water pushed on shore from Hurricane Hermine moves over the region. This is one of the locations that did have the mandatory evacuations. Another video from earlier in Alligator Point, and this area is south of Tallahassee. You can see that storm surge. When we talk about the Gulf being so exposed to storm surge, you get that push of water from the storm. So you're going to see areas that are typically dry that are now covered with water. Here, a road completely washed away. So that's why, in many cases, these emergency officials have said, get out because it's just not a safe place to stay. Dave Malkoff has been braving the elements in Apalachicola. You know, Dave, you mentioned people are hanging out. A restaurant's open. They're playing music. We've heard people talking to you. Have you heard from anyone who said, you know what, I'm on my way out. I'm not gonna deal with it?
Yeah, we talked to a couple who were here from the Cincinnati area. They came down a few weeks ago and they were staging on a barrier island that is way out there. And you have to go over a giant bridge to get to that barrier island. It's called St. George Island. And they were there. They were talking to their friends who are residents on that island. And their friends were saying, hey, we're going to stay, so you should stay. But then they saw the hurricane warnings come up and they said, not good for a couple of folks who are from Ohio. We're not used to this. We are going to hit the road, and we're going to get back to the Cincinnati area. So that's what they did. They packed up their car, they packed up their bicycles on the back of their car, and they got on the road. They're going to spend the night in Atlanta tonight, and then they're going to head on north. Now, as for those road closures that you were talking about, how the road was just eroding and almost creating a sinkhole, well, when the road in a place like that or a place like the barrier islands that they're on, St. George Island, when the sand washes away under it, and a lot of times these barrier islands, that's all they're made of, really. If you're talking about the Outer Banks or you're talking about the barrier island right there, it's just a sandbar down there. And as the sand washes away, Alex, that roadway, the blacktop, is just going to come collapsing down. There's nothing to hold it up. If you've ever built a sandcastle, you can see what happens when the waves come and hit that sandcastle. It goes away pretty fast, and that is exactly what's happening in that situation.
We appreciate your report. Stay safe out there, and as you mentioned, that's why they told you to get out of the area. Tornado threat continues through tonight into the overnight. Want to get an update from severe weather expert Dr. Greg Forbes.
Thanks, Alex. And indeed, we have now 4 storms that have tornado warnings, 2 in the Panhandle, 2 in the peninsula of Florida. They're all in this right front quadrant relative to the low pressure movement of Hermine. 2 in the Panhandle there, 2 going due north. Those going due north are about 60 miles per hour. We'll start with those. One is in Lake County, just to the east and northeast now of the Leesburg area, heading up toward places like Ocalawa and Electra at about 8:58 or so. And then down to the south and east of that, off to the west of Orlando, close to the Winter Haven area, Lake and Orange counties. These storms you can see moving a little bit to the east of due north. And a possible tornado there close to the Ocoee area right now, heading up toward the Apopka area. There is some rotation showing up in that. Greens eastbound, reds going westbound. So just a little bit west of Ocoee, heading up toward the Paradise Heights area. Then we head up into the Panhandle. Storms here moving more toward the northwest. One of them going to go close to, probably just slightly to the west of Perry as it crosses Taylor County. And another one to the south of that. It's in this particular storm here, heading up to the area just to the south and west of Day across Lafayette and Taylor County. So dangerous storms. It's getting to be the time now where I said we would get more of a tornado threat this evening and overnight. And unfortunately, that's coming true. Brian?
All right, Dr. Forbes, thanks very much. Let's take a look at what we have on this storm. We're standing by for an update on the position from the National Hurricane Center, but we have still an 80-mile-an-hour hurricane here, and it's bearing down on the coast. Now, landfall is going to be a little later than we were talking about, but we can see the direction of movement is a little to the right of Apalachicola. We'll look close up there in a second. As of 8 o'clock, moving north-northeast at 14. It was 45 miles from Apalachicola at 8, and at 9, they say they're going to give us an update. Here's a super close-up look at the radar, and the hurricane hunters went through it, and in this area here, they found increasing winds aloft, and judging by, when we look at the other view of the radar, the in motion view,